One thing I want to share, there's a quality, two, three qualities, mashallah, tabarakallah, that I've seen in you, right? But to demonstrate, I want to tell you that when I first started with IERA, you were already part of IERA, right? It was the really early days, Today on the Dixie Queen, those kind of days, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I remember that I came to one of the early events and Saki was introducing me to everyone, right? And I remember I met a lot of different people on that night. But the one I remembered of all was you. Because when you met me completely different. You know, you meet people every day and that I'm meeting people, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum. And when I met you, you were like, oh, Mohammad Arshad. And we've never met. We probably haven't even heard of each other, right? And you were so warm and you were so authentic and you were like, I'm so looking forward to working with you. And that whole time, I remember it right now, like it's just happened. I remember we were in a car park after some sort of a live appeal that you had done and stuff like that.
In Walthamstow, yeah.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience for me to just meet you. And so I really want to understand, like, what is it that drives that authenticity, that warmth, that expression that a lot of brothers, especially males, don't kind of go to that level. So where does that all come from?
You know, I don't really know. Probably my dad, probably the way I was brought up. But I think for me, if I want to retrospectively philosophize about it, yeah, I think for me it is meaning. There's no meaning behind being fake, bro. And for me, I've always been driven by meaning, and that's because of my negative experiences as a childhood. Not that my parents did anything bad, but it was my perception of certain events.
Yeah.
And those were like landmark moments, if you like, that really made me perceive the world in a different way. So, and for me, I was chasing meaning. And because meaning means that something is grounded bigger than you, right? So the thing that you're doing or the action or the activity or the way you are is grounded in something bigger than you, right? And for me, if you didn't have that, then it becomes meaningless. And I think being fake and not authentic is meaningless because it's not grounded in something bigger than you. It's actually just your ego sometimes or your own limitations. So I think for me, a lot of it is about meaning. I know that sounds really weird.
No, that is weird. But on one level is very good because you're saying authentically you're going to be yourself, okay? But what I'm saying is that one of the things...
Well, you're not always yourself. There is a context the way you act, of course. But look, the way I came across to you is what, you know, generally speaking, I like to be an outgoing character. I like to, you know, treat people nicely and, you know, engage and always see good in people, that kind of thing, right? But at the same time, to make a decision not to be like that is meaningless for me because... it's inauthentic and it's not grounded in something bigger than myself.
There's a secondary point here, right? Which is that one of the things that people really love about you, mashallah, tabarakallah, is that the way you express yourself. Okay? So one level is like I'm saying, authenticity, the warmth was very good, but I'm asking you about the expression where you can actually express yourself on a much better level because that was part of it. It wasn't just that you said it was just the way you express yourself. So
yeah, you know what? In retrospect, maybe this whole meaning thing doesn't make any sense. So you're right, but I don't know how meaning fits into it.
Okay, but tell me about your expression. Like, how is it that you're able to express yourself to brothers, and how is it that you're able to bring yourself out like that?
I do feel the meaning thing has a context, but maybe not in this particular context. It's more about being authentic with yourself. I don't find that meaningful. That's what I'm trying to say. Because if you're authentic with yourself, then you're more likely to be authentic with others. And the way you come across is not going to be basically just a facade, that kind of thing. Yeah. So how, you know what? I think a lot of it is not really caring what people think. That's one thing, right? And caring a lot what people think is probably a sign of an ego. That's one thing for me, not really care. And what I mean by not caring what people think, you care about people's feelings, but who you are is not contingent, is not dependent on people's perceptions, or expectations. So you try and transcend that in the way. Yeah. And from an Islamic point of view, you know, we should always ask the question: what does Allah want from me in this situation? Not what does He want from me? What does Allah want from me? So if what Allah wants from you is something that someone doesn't like, then who cares? Right? Do you see the point? So that's what I mean. So you transcend social pressure from that point of view. And I saw it in my father. You know, he would really be himself. He was like a hippie type of Greek, vegetarian, right? And have all these ideas that were not in line with a kind of, you know, Greek culture that he was brought up in the 1950s, 60s. So, you know, I saw that in my father a lot. So I think I'm just a protraction. I'm an extension of what I was brought up with, you know, how my father was interacting with other people. And you know what? You want to treat people how you want to be treated, isn't it? Yeah. So I always saw people around me, like my father, my mom, maybe family, having that passion, having that self-expression. And you just learn to like it, and you learn to appreciate it as authentic. And basically, you know, if you're sincere to yourself, that you want to treat others that way as well. So,
Amazing.
look, you know, I think a lot of it is cultural, bro. You know, honestly, a lot of our Muslims, unfortunately, they come from an Asian subcontinent background, and they probably haven't had the experience that I have. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way, because there's many great parents in the Asian subcontinent community. But generally speaking, you know, we're going through post-colonial trauma, bro. Yeah, and it's affected our psychology. You know, we have a bit of an inferiority complex, the way we come across. Generally, in some cultures, you know, I've asked some of the brothers from that community. They said, "Have you ever heard your father say he loves you?" That's that, and they said no, and never.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the father does love them,
Of course.
but you know, you got to hear it, bro, as well, and you got to connect it with action. And subhanAllah, when I hear things like this, I'm thinking we've got a lot of work to do in our community. Yeah? A lot of the issues that we suffer are actually psychodynamic. And what I've realized, brothers and sisters with good relationship with their parents, they are different type of characters. And I've seen that. I've actually seen that.
In what way? What way are they different?
Well, I think they are more positive. They're more outgoing. They're more self-expressive. They're less defensive, I think, in some cases. They're more likely to probably to apologize, to have greater emotional intelligence. And, you know, and that's it. And that's why parenting is so important. Now, don't get me wrong. Just because you've had that background, there's not an excuse, right? But you just have to realize that and just create awakenings within yourself and basically be the person that you want to be. You know, we all have different backgrounds. And we all have our own challenges, and they shouldn't be excuses for why we are who we are now, because we can always transform.
Well, that's a good point about background and transformation, because a lot of people will see you today, bro, and you know, people have been watching your videos and debates and all this kind of stuff, right? And they're thinking, this guy was born with it. Like, you know,
No.
he's just someone who just got the lucky thing of being able to speak, and, you know, he's just done it. Like, can you tell me a little bit about failures, bro, in your life?
Yeah,
tell me a little about, like, your first experiences and...
So I think what one should have is a sense of conscientiousness, right? That doesn't mean they're a good person, that they could reflect. They have an ability to self-reflect and to be self-aware to some degree. That is probably... If there was any skill I would try and teach someone, it would be that. Because if you don't have that, then it's very hard for you to transform at all. Yeah, you're always blaming others. You won't find the real causes to things. So let me give you an example that we both shared. Yeah. So I remember when I was in the dawah, and you know what? Oh my God, you know, a lot of it was ego, bro. As you can imagine, you know, I'm the first kind of da'i in the public sphere when social media was just about to get popular, right? 2006, 2007, that kind of era, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, that kind of stuff, right? And I didn't know how to do with it. I didn't have scholars around me to do with this properly. So what am I thinking? I'm thinking, just do the work. And, you know, a lot of it was getting platform, getting popular, and, you know, the whole concept of a class was in the background. You know, it was almost, now thinking about it, a spiritually traumatic experience, yeah? And I remember one time in our era, I was invited to Chicago to do this tour, and there was a beautiful bunch of brothers that basically had a massive kind of smackdown on me. There was one particular brother who basically made me feel that everything I'm doing is pointless. It was like, you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're just a rocking chair. A rocking chair moves a lot, but it's not going anywhere, right? So it made me feel like a rocking chair. It made me feel that, you know, I'm not doing anything with any ikhlas, with any sincerity, because it's about me and about, you know, I'm running the show. So he really just created an awakening within me. I remember in this room that we're in now, it was me and you in the meeting.
I remember.
Yeah, and I started crying. And I nearly made you cry that day.
Yeah.
I remember, that's the first time I nearly made you cry. I was really crying. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I've done nothing. It's a pointless, you know, no ikhlas. And I remember I made a decision. And obviously I didn't get it perfect straight away, but I made a decision from that point. Everything that I do, I try and link it to empowering others and developing others and training. And you know what? That one experience has actually fundamentally changed our era. Because from there, it helped develop courses, different courses that we started to do, other than the primary course that we were doing. Then that was the basis for our education pathway now at the moment that thousands of people have engaged with to a certain degree. And yeah, and it was the basis for the book. Wallahi, you would never imagine. So one negative experience, look what's happened kind of thing, right? And, you know, and that's why, you know, I think it was... Sheikh Abu Abdus Salam, when I was going through like a really bad period, he was like, look, man, on the day of judgment, you would wish for this to happen 1,000 times, because you're going to look back and say, subhanAllah, this helped me with my humility. This helped me with my ikhlas, with my sincerity. This helped me with who I am today, those negative experiences. So, yeah, so that was one learning curve. Another learning curve was to basically, you have to realize that the dawah is bigger than you. Or it's not about you, and you have to apologize sometimes. You have to retract. You have to move forward, and you have to make positive changes. I think that's very important to understand that the dawah is much bigger than you. Another thing I think I realized was sometimes I would get really, really emotional. Like I think one of the board members, he was a bit reluctant to ask me to become the CEO, I believe, because he thought I reacted very emotionally, like a very kind of Greek way. We break plates at weddings. We're very passionate. We're like the European Punjabis, bro. Yeah. Yeah. So from that point of view, it was like, and I've learned now to control that in some degree, to actually focus more on getting things to work rather than reacting to my initial gut feeling about, oh my God, I don't believe this is happening kind of thing. And I've learned that as well throughout, me being a leader from that point of view. Yeah. So and I've realized as well, leadership in Islam, you have to focus on the inner dimensions of your worship. You have to focus on dhikr and adhkar to protect yourself. You can't be just a nominal Muslim from that point of view. You have to try your best to try and, connect with Allah, because without Allah's help and connection, you're finished.